cloud. Okay, we're recording to the cloud.
Yay.
All right, everybody, here we are. Power of Motherhood, Chapter 3. The chapter today is Mothers Are Nurturers. And this basically is a La Leche League meeting. So we all did our homework, and hopefully Maggie joins us. I think she forgot this morning, but that's okay. But no, this is really good because it's La Leche League plus scriptures.
With no hats on.
Yeah, with no hats on. We can say what we want. I rarely have my hat on anyway.
Well, yeah.
Right?
True.
I'm forever in a meeting saying, I'm going to say this now, but pretend like I didn't say it. But whatever. That's just what it is. So let's see. Let's just talk about, I guess, the text. There was a lot to read, but it was easy reading. The first scripture she pulls out is 1 Timothy 5:10. That the example woman there was a child nourisher. When do we start nurturing? Of course, at the moment of conception, we take care of ourselves while we're pregnant. And then once the baby's born, we should be breastfeeding. God created us with breasts to nourish babies. This is his plan. Exodus 2:9, Pharaoh's daughter said to Moses, his mother, take this child and nurse it for me. I will give you your wages. And so I guess this first part is really just pointing out that this is how we were made. This is what your parts are for. Our parts are not really actually for making Carl's Jr. commercials with big sloppy $6 hamburgers. Right?
Well, you mean I'm not supposed to just use these to get whatever I want?
Well, I mean, probably not, especially if you're a professing Christian. I don't think that's probably a good idea. What do you think?
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's see. She talks about the Greek word philos. I'm going to botch that. It comes from the Greek root word phile, which means the nipple of a woman's breast, to suckle, to nurse. And its origin is to thrive. That was big. And then, of course, down at the bottom of 25, she references Romans 1:26 and 27, which is huge. Actually, that scripture comes up a lot for me for a lot of different reasons. But this was a really good application of it where men and women make the conscious choice to reject the way that God created them, and so they've not used their things for the natural uses that God created them for, and so they turn into these people that do unnatural things. And she's applying breastfeeding to that. I think that's a pretty good application. That word philos is in there, talking about changing the natural use into that which is against nature. I think more often we talk about this regarding homosexuality. But I think the breastfeeding was a good application to that. What did you think? Did you think it was a stretch or good?
No, I thought it was good because I definitely think that people want breasts to be for sexual pleasure and that alone, and that is not what they were intended for. I feel like that's just a perk. Like,
yeah,
like that's just a bonus of having them, but that's not why we have them.
Right.
So no, I thought that was good. And I like that you said, a conscious rejection, because I feel like some people reject their body and its natural purpose without even realizing it, because nowadays you don't realize that breastfeeding is normal and natural. I mean, I don't know if it's just social media and it's seeming to become more acceptable or more out there. But for the most part, I know when I was a first time mom, like that's not what I thought about.
Oh, that was the one thing about having a child that scared me to death. Scared me to death. I was not worried about pushing a baby out of my vagina. I was not worried about any of those things. I was scared to death and had nightmares about breastfeeding a baby because I had never seen it done, ever. I didn't know anybody who did. I looked at the world around me and I was like, no, but I was like, what? No, this is like, no, like there was definitely a thing there. And it was my husband that looked at me and he said, you're going to breastfeed this baby. And I was like, whoa, dude. I was like, are you being serious? And he was like, yeah, that's what you're going to do. And I said, okay, well, I'll try, you know, but I'm telling you right now, if I would have had troubles with that first child, I would have very quickly given it up and walked away from it and just thrown my hands up in the air and said, see, I tried, and washed my hands of it in complete ignorance, not understanding the why or the why not, because it was so foreign to me. And it probably wasn't until my third was born. No, my second. It was my second that I finally started going to La Leche League meetings and that sort of thing. And I was like, oh, like, no, this is important. And of course, with my last child, she had a lot of problems. And I mean, I fought and fought and fought and fought and turned my house upside down for the better part of a year, working on just trying to get her to be able to latch. And, you know, I would have never thrown down like that and fought for it. Never with my firstborn. And thankfully he was a great breastfeeder. Like I remember the nurse coming in and saying, okay, sweetie, because I had him in the hospital. Okay, sweetie. Thankfully it was a little old, sweet old woman. Okay, sweetie, it's been a couple hours since you gave birth. Are you going to try to breastfeed? And I was like, yes. And she said, okay, well, it's been a couple of hours. We should probably try to feed him. And I was like, okay. And I'm just holding him like wrapped in a little burrito, hospital style burrito. And she's like, okay, well, do you need help? And I was like, yes. And she's like, okay. And she's like lifting my shirt and turning his body. And she's like, here. And there he goes. And he just left. And she said, look, he's a natural. He knows what he's doing. And he did. And it was awesome. And I was like, okay, well, I'm telling you, if it hadn't been that simple with him, I would have been like, nope, done.
Well, that's what I did with Jacob. I mean, because I had him in the hospital and he was a C-section and they're like, are you going to breastfeed? And I mean, honestly, I had not thought about it before then because nobody talks about that. I didn't know anybody. Like nobody's like, so are you going to nurse? Read this book or you should come to a meeting. Like, no, didn't happen. So I was like, sure, I'll try, right? Like that sounds like the logical thing to say. Why not? I'll give it a go. Right. And I didn't nurse him until I had him at like 8:30 at night. I probably didn't nurse him till the next morning. Like they didn't offer. If they did, I was so out of it, I don't even remember, if we're being honest. Right. And I tried and the nurse was like, oh yeah, he's doing okay. But like I had no freaking idea. And it was so weird. Like I was that woman who was like, no, my boobs, like they're not for this. This is not right. Like, whoa, no. And, right. But I wanted to be, I don't like to think that I'm closed-minded. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll try. Sure. And so I tried like a couple of times and I was like, nah, no, like he's good with Nick. He takes his bottle. Like here I am recovering. Like, and it's funny because I have to work at bonding with him the most because it didn't come naturally to me for a lot of different reasons. But I think had I nursed him, it might've been a little bit different.
Right.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I honestly probably would not have nursed Logan had Corinne not have tricked me into going to Leche League meetings.
Right.
I remember sitting in the freaking car. Like, oh, she totally tricked us. Like she knows. because, here I am for my Bradley class, and, oh, it's also La Leche League. So let's just stay and have La Leche League meeting. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for La Leche League meetings. Like, but you're already there. And,
Yeah.
and at the old Pink Peas, there were the big windows. So, like, they already have seen you. You can't just leave now.
Right.
Like, all right, let's go in here. And I remember, like, being like, look at all these women just whipping their boobs out and feeding all these babies. Like, this is crazy. And then we just kept coming. And slowly it started to not be weird anymore. And then I read The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding and realized, that my breasts have a different purpose other than a sexual man magnet, so I was like, all right. And so I tried with Logan, and I had a better idea of what I was doing, and I had a lot of support,
Right.
And so it just worked out, and he was a really good nurser. And so that was good. It worked out.
Yeah. And now you'd fight for it, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been different. I know we get into that later on, but with him, I had oversupply. With Journey, I kind of did. And now with Nico, I don't. I did have oversupply, and then he started sucking his thumb, and then he started sleeping 4 hours at night. And so I got my period back, which she talks about. Yeah, I kind of knew, but I thought, oh, let's just try and see.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I'll be lucky anyway. No.
Sleep.
Yeah, I mean, fourth baby problems, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Now I have to fight for it. I have to drink mother's milk tea when I'm ovulating and closer to my period. And I have to make sure I'm drinking enough water and having oats to make sure I'm producing enough, because he stopped gaining weight there for a while, and I didn't realize that was why.
Right.
So yeah, now I have to fight for it. I could have easily been like, I'm not making enough milk. Here's a bottle.
Right.
Easy peasy. I'm out. But
right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So then she makes a big list of, well, let's see, benefits. Here are some of the blessings we receive when we nourish our baby at our breast. Prolactin. It's a hormone. It's a love hormone. It bonds us. Oh yeah, up higher on the page, Lamentations. There's a verse that says, even the jackals offer their breast to nurse their young. So, we're humans, we should probably do that. So prolactin is an awesome hormone. I like the second paragraph there. She said, the mother who is nursing her baby is bound to her baby. She finds it hard to leave her baby with a babysitter. This is God's plan. He does not intend for mothers to leave their babies after a few months to pursue their career. They already have a more important career. Breastfeeding ties them to one another. I couldn't agree with that more. Hi, Journey. What's up, girl? Oh, all the kids. What's up, bud? He's so happy all the time. I wonder if that's the prolactin.
Maybe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I thought that was yeah, it's awesome. That's what I was saying. Like, because I didn't nurse Jacob, so I felt like these things were just different. Like, it's different. Nursing a baby makes me a different kind of mother than when I didn't. Like, I could leave him, and I willingly left him. I was like, yeah, you're fine. Somebody else can feed you. So it's different now to know that it's more than just a feeding thing. You want to nurse? Yeah.
Speaking of nursing, all right, the second hormone is oxytocin. This hormone is released by the pituitary gland and stimulates our milk ejection reflex. This is the one that makes us calm. It's the same hormone that's released with an orgasm. And this is a big one. So you can also get this hormone released from eating and other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, that's a big one. And of course, mothers who exclusively breastfeed their babies have higher levels of this, and we're calmer. we get into this mode where the whole house can be crumbling down around us, and we see this screaming baby, and we're like, oh, I'm going to nurse the baby now. And we go into baby nursing la la land, and we look at the house crumbling and we go, that's all right. It'll be there in 10 more minutes or 30 more minutes. Fine. And it kind of levels us off, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. It's been funny lately because I'll be nursing him at night and I'm like, man, I'm so tired. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And it's from nursing. Like, I just finally sat, and it wasn't just sitting as much as it's like, I don't know, your mind almost quiets down. I have a hard time trying to multitask in my brain while I'm nursing. It's like, I don't know, I'm not really thinking about other things so much. I'm kind of just here with you. And then when I'm done, I'm like, man, I'm tired.
All right. Now, number 3, she gets into breastfeeding being a form of natural contraception. And at first it comes off, this is an easy one to get bent out of shape about, because for so many of us, it's not true.
Yeah.
But there are rules to what's actually considered exclusively breastfeeding.
Right.
There's rules to that. But even then, even if we follow all the rules, it's still not a hard and fast rule.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely different for different people. But I know for me, my other 2, I didn't get my period back until I started introducing food, which was like 8-9 months or so. Yeah. Because I just couldn't hold them off any longer, and it wasn't worth the fight every meal.
Yes.
But I did everything else. Like, I nursed them. They didn't have pacifiers or their thumbs. I solely did it all. And so with him, I was like, let's see. And he would sleep 4-hour stretches at night, which she says is a no-no. And he would suck his thumb.
Yeah.
And when I originally had oversupply, I was kind of okay with that because he would just keep getting milk, and then he'd be sick.
Right.
Yeah. So, for all you mothers out there, if you don't want your period back, you should follow these rules.
So you kind of said some of the rules. So no bottles, no pacifiers, no schedule. That's a big one. Like nurse on demand.
Mm-hmm. Nurse for comfort.
Yep, for comfort, for all the things. All the things. It's not just for food. It's all the time. It's on demand. It's as often as this child wants. And definitely through the night. We don't want to sleep train a baby. If you don't want your period back. Yes. And so she says that the average, what did she say the average was?
Like 14 and a half months.
Yeah. And
that was kind of crazy, but.
Well, no, we know people. I've known people that do all the rules, and the cycle comes back at 3-4 months postpartum. And then I know some other moms that are on the other end of the spectrum, and even when they're to that stage where they have a toddler and they're only breastfeeding maybe twice a day, maybe at nap and right before bed, they still haven't gotten their cycle back because that's just how their body operates. And then there's, people all in between that, of course. So there's no hard and fast rule. But yeah, that sounds about average to me too, based on my experience in talking to people. Let's see.
Then she was talking about the health benefits for moms and about not ovulating as often in your life because you kind of give your reproductive system a break.
Yes. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. I like the reference she made in Hosea 1:8. It tells us that, it was actually Isaiah 66. Well, hang on, we'll do both. Hosea 1:8 tells us that after Gomer weaned, she conceived and bore a son. Okay. It is interesting that the passage in Isaiah 66 also hints at the hormone oxytocin. It says that as she gives suck, she will have peace flowing over her like a river. And some of the words in that section, Isaiah chapter 66, verses 10 through 13. And she uses King James here. That ye may suck and be satisfied with the breast of her consolations, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. And other words in here, comfort. It talks about the mother comforting. And yeah, that really is a picture of, it really is a really good picture of what it's supposed to look like and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
When you just use your stuff for what you're supposed to use it for.
And it's funny because I feel like all of our instincts lean towards that naturally. And what happens is we get those, I'll call them well-meaning people because I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. He's like, oh, but you don't want to spoil your baby, or,
Yes.
You let him cry a little. And it's like, no, this is okay. And obviously, since I had a child, I didn't nurse him who made independent, and ones who I did nurse till at least 3. The ones I did nurse and comforted all the time are way more independent than the one I didn't.
Yes.
They flopped. Like there in the early years, it was good and it was true, and then it has reversed. So
yes. Yeah. I also, I had a thought. These well-meaning people too, there's a lot of folks out there that, especially family members, who think that they'd be helping you by taking the baby for a few hours so that you can sleep or go on a date or something. And so a lot of times those are individuals who kind of downplay the importance of breastfeeding, because they'll say, well, if you just give her a bottle, then I could take her for a few hours and you could sleep. Or, if you just do formula once in a while, then you can go on a date. And I think that those people also mean well. Like, let's just give grace on that and assume that they do.
Yeah.
And I think that culturally in America, it's way more acceptable to go ahead and drop your baby off with people than it is to be the mom who says, nope, not until this child turns 1, which is pretty much what I settled into. Like until this baby's at least a year, like it just goes with me wherever. And if the baby's not welcome, then I'm not going. Yeah,
that's kind of where I was with Nick, and he won this trip to Hawaii, and he knew that there was no way in heck I was going to leave the baby because he's only 7 months old, which some people might. It's only 4 days. Like, oh, don't you need that time away? Like, you need that self-care. Just, pump. It'll be fine. Like, no. And he knew, so he asked right away if bringing the baby would be a problem, and thankfully they were like, no, it's fine. So you get to go, right? Yeah.
Awesome. I think Maggie finally saw our message.
Yay!
Oh, there she is.
Must be why I keep dinging.
Hey.
Sorry, I completely forgot.
What a loser. We're recording.
And somebody turned the ringer off on my phone. So you were trying to call me and I didn't even hear it. I'm sorry. Did you start without me, I hope?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Good.
We're
We're
already
talking about women's benefits of nursing. I think that's where we've gotten so far.
We're right here. We're on page. We're going to start at 28.
Oh, 28. There you go.
And the subtitle is That Which Is Enough. We'll start there.
Oh, yes.
And the breast is total prevision. When nursing a baby, we do not need to give supplement bottles or solids or pacifiers. That the breast is enough to satisfy physical and emotional hunger of our baby. And she's still talking about how to succeed with using breastfeeding as a form of natural contraception. And we've kind of covered that already, Maggie, where it's not a hard, fast rule, but the rules are pretty good. Not that they're hard and fast, okay? So A, nurture baby for emotional as well as physical needs. The scripture there is Psalm 71:3. Even as a grown man, David looked to the Lord for a habitation to where he can come at any time. She thinks he's subconsciously looking back to his early nursing days.
How Freudian.
Well, okay, well, whatever. She wanted to make an application. That's okay. But yeah, no, there are a lot of scriptures that point out what it looks like. We already read the Isaiah 66 few verses. That was cool. All right.
Yes.
Satisfy the sucking need of your baby. Yes. Letter C. Do not start solid food until at least 6 months. D. Do not use a bottle. E. Nurse during the night. We've kind of covered all this. Of course, down at the bottom here, she's like, do not use breastfeeding for the primary purpose of contraception. Because it's not hard and fast. And then,
and you know what's funny about that is my midwife actually made a good point, is that most times you ovulate before you even get your period.
yes, you do.
Maybe not be your best idea, even if it's gone. You don't know when some women do know exactly when they ovulate, but I feel like after baby, sometimes they kind of throw you through a new cycle and you got to kind of relearn yourself again. But I definitely think all those rules are good to try or go towards, because it's going to help you have a happy relationship with your baby and a healthy milk supply for the most part. And no harm is going to come from doing them. You know, and you try it, and maybe it works for you, and maybe it doesn't, and you kind of figure it out with your next couple babies.
Yes.
Keeping those charts is invaluable anyway, because you can diagnose so many problems just by looking at your charts.
So do you do that? You keep track of your temperature and stuff?
I don't keep track of my temperature. I've never been good at that part, but I track the other stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. To track your temperature, you have to get, I think, like a 4-hour straight block of sleep and take it at the same time every morning before rising,
Right.
before having a drink of water.
Right.
Like that. I actually don't know who that applies to on the planet.
Not
Who
people
does
with
that apply to?
Right.
What mother of a baby gets an uninterrupted 4-hour block of sleep without drinking or getting up to go to the bathroom or change a diaper or something?
Right.
Well, what mom of young children don't get up to some kind of chaos every morning? Must just be me. Something fell, there was a boom, somebody's screaming. Like, most times I have to jump out of bed. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, the temperature thing, But the other signs, definitely, I track those. I write them straight on the closet wall.
There you go.
So I can never lose them.
All right, let's turn the page. Enough about your cervix. Biblical understanding of nursing. I'm at the top of page 30. We have discussed Isaiah 66, 10 through 13. Let us look at 1 Thessalonians 2, 7 through 9. Paul's self-giving service to the Thessalonian believers is a testimony of a nursing mother. I'll open that up. I should have had that open. 1 Thessalonians 2. Whoop, I passed it. Here we are. I'm reading ESV 7 through 9. Okay. But we were gentle among you, like a nursing mother taking care of her own children. So, being affectionately desirous of you, we were ready to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own selves, because you had become very dear to us. And so she paints a picture here of Paul's own words comparing his love for these people to a mother's love for her breastfeeding infant. And some of the words in Some of the other translations were gentle, nourishing, cherishing, loving, available, sacrificing, and laboring night and day. She applies to night nursing. Yeah, I thought that was a great application.
Yes. Up here at the top, because when you read it, it said that we were ready. This one says we were willing, and next to it, available. And it seems so simple, but that's huge. That's huge in today's society, to even physically be with your baby.
Yes.
Is something that people like, wait, I should do that? Yes. Yes, you should be in the same room with your baby.
Yes. Yeah, when we have breastfeeding support group, when we do La Leche League meetings, there's usually a person once a month, I'd say about one a month, where I either get a text or a call saying, can I bring the baby? And I'm kind of like, well, how else are we going to help you? Like, yes, you bring your baby. No.
And I can recall times that moms showed up without their babies.
Yes.
Crying. I don't know why it isn't working.
Newsflash, you
You have to have the baby and the mom together for this to work.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't work if you're not. Yes. Yep. Correct. All right, number 4, we teach our children trust. Psalm 22, thou art he that took me out of the womb. Thou didst make me hope when I was upon my mother's breast. I was cast upon thee from the womb. Thou art my God from my mother's womb. Right from the very beginning, we have the privilege of showing to our children a little of what God is like. Yeah, that's a really cool thought and feeling, to stare at this baby that came out of your body and have the full weight and understanding over the fact that this is it. Feed your baby, like grow the baby. It's on you. Nobody else gets to do it. This is something God gave you to do. That's a huge revelation. Huge.
Into privilege.
Makes me feel like a superhero, to be honest. Like, I don't know. Like when you're pregnant, I guess you don't really see it as much. But there's sometimes I look at him and I'm like, "You're growing." Like,
I have to get my baby.
Me. Like,
I'll be back.
Okay, go get your baby.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like, look at how big you are. I did that. Like, you're growing from nursing and you're learning all this stuff, and it's crazy. It's really kind of cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Mother's health. We usually think of baby's health when we think of breastfeeding, but most people do not realize that it's also advantageous for mother's health. And yes, I like to talk about this because it's easy for me to forget. But she goes into, let's just do the highlights here. Prolonged breastfeeding is a preventive measure against breast cancer. It says here, it reduces the risk of breast cancer whose babies are totally breastfed for the first 6 months and with more than one baby. And maybe it's caused by the lack of our cycle. Maybe that factors into that. I'm not really sure. I haven't done much research on this myself. I just have heard this enough times and read it enough times. I've never actually gone and read the studies myself. Let's see. Yes, Sherry, this is what you were saying earlier, the idea that we ovulate in today's culture about 450 times because we start menstruating at about age 12 and we only give birth once or twice. So we ovulate all of these times. In contrast, women who lived 200 years ago would have started menstruating around 17 and delivered and breastfed about 8 babies. And so those people would ovulate fewer than 150 times. And the doctor argues that pregnancy and lactation provide a crucial resting period for the ovaries, sex glands, etc. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure there's truth to that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it
people
definitely
talk
makes
about how hard pregnancy is on the body, but constant ovulation and periods are hard on the body too, in a different way.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't think we were made to be like
No.
that. You know, our cycle we don't start having a cycle the day we're born, and we don't have it until the day we die. We have it for this time period where we're supposed to be having babies. That's what it's for.
Yes.
So, all right, the next point was women who have a full pregnancy before the age of 18 have 1/3 of the breast cancer risk of a woman whose first child is delayed until after the age of 30 or never has a child. And then it talks about women who only nurse with one breast cancer in the other breast is more prevalent.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I know that's come up a lot too. Let's see. There could be direct physical effects on the breast associated with lactation that might protect against breast cancer, such as changes in the breast ductal epithelial cells in lactation or mechanical flushing out of carcinogens. That was interesting. I haven't read that before. And let's see. One study revealed that the women with the least breast cancer were those who had the most children and thus a longer breastfeeding experience. We found that women who breastfed for a total of 2 years or more had nearly 1/3 less breast cancer than women who did not breastfeed. Well, I think that means Maggie will never die.
Will never die.
She's like a cockroach.
There are lots of recent studies on this because this book is pretty old.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure that out. It looks like it was printed in 1996, and I don't know. Even it said the 9th edition was 2008, but I think all the original content might be from 96. So.
And like I said before, when I go to the website, the whole cover is different. So, man, I have no idea how many things are different in there. I should probably look at it, or I don't know.
Yeah, what if I should buy a copy of the new one? But there are lots and lots of studies out about the abortion and breast cancer link, because when a woman miscarries or aborts a baby early on, her breasts have undergone changes and then don't get to fulfill their purpose with those changes. And that creates an environment in the breast that is cancer friendly, so to speak. So there have been lots and lots of studies about this over the past 10, 15 years. And I'm sure anybody could find those online. And of course, this just applies to, anybody who purposely delays or terminates a pregnancy. I hate to use the word habitually, but I think that does apply to some women.
Yes. Yes, it does. All right, number 6, baby's health. If your baby is healthy, this is a blessing for you as a mother. A healthy baby is easy to care for. A sick baby is a constant worry. The best way to keep your baby healthy is to give it the perfect food that God has planned. Cow's milk is perfect food, but only for cows. It was never intended for human babies. The cow is a big animal with 4 stomachs. It weighs about 90 pounds at birth, and in only 2 years is a whopping 2,000 pounds. It's not the kind of food that is required for the human baby who weighs about 6 to 8 pounds at birth and is only 100 to 200 pounds 20 years later. The baby uses 100% of protein from mother's milk, but only less than 50% from cow's milk or formula, which is extra work on the kidneys. Breastfed babies typically, well, we shouldn't say typically, but we shouldn't expect all breastfed babies to be big and fat like a formula-fed baby would be, because the composition is different. Breast milk contains up to 10 times more essential vitamins than cow's milk. The immunity that breast milk affords lasts long after the child is weaned. Breastfed babies do not suffer from constipation. Also, sucking on the breast will promote optimum facial development, for which your child will bless you later in life. Here's some more interesting facts. Let's see. The risk of acute gastrointestinal illness in infants receiving formula was 6 times greater than infants receiving breast milk and 2.5 times greater than infants receiving cow milk. Yep. Insufficient breastfeeding of genetically susceptible newborn infants may lead to beta cell infection, beta cell destruction, and insulin-dependent diabetes later in life. Children who are artificially fed or breastfed for only 6 months or less were at an increased risk for developing cancer before age 15. The risk for artificially fed children was 1 to 8 times that of long-term breastfed children, and the risk for short-term breastfeeders was 1 to 10 times that of long-term breastfeeders. Let's see. Whole cow's milk should not be fed to infants during their first year of life because of its association with hidden gastrointestinal bleeding, iron deficiency, anemia, and cow's milk allergy. Oh man, this one's a big one. Researchers say that thousands of bottle-fed babies risk long-term brain and bone damage from aluminum in milk powders. Yes. Ooh. Yes, yes, yes. And she rightly points out that to go into all the details about all of these things, it would require a whole separate set of encyclopedias.
Oh, yes. I mean, we come out with new stuff every year.
While we're sitting here, I'm actually going to open a window on my Google here and find this article because there's been really cool studies done and statistics run and mathematicians do their thing. And I want to say, well, I'm going to find it first. So let me just find it.
I guess remember about 10 years ago and they found melamine in formula.
Yes.
China.
I think, there we go. Here it is. All right. And you can find it everywhere. Let me just open this. I wonder if I can click it to this video.
There is a way to do that. I wrote down the instructions.
Okay.
I think you have to do it before you open the meeting.
Okay.
I think you have to have those windows already open. I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, while we're sitting around talking, maybe I'll try to see. Okay, so the headline is 800,000 children die every year due to lack of breast milk. And let's see, a team of researchers from the World Health Organization and UNICEF estimated that 800,000 child deaths a year worldwide would be prevented if breast milk was universally fed to feed babies. They found that 0.5% of British children are breastfed for a year, compared to 92% in India, 44% in New Zealand, and 27% in the US. About a third of babies in the UK are breastfed for 6 months, compared to about half of infants in US and Germany. And so, let me see if I can find another sentence here, but basically it's saying these babies, 800,000 babies die because they didn't get breast milk. It's not because they starved to death. It's
right.
Because they're being artificially fed.
Right.
And there's, in this same line of thinking, there's other articles that I could find too that talk about respiratory illnesses, ear infections, all of that within the first year or two of life. And the huge difference between the artificially fed babies and the breastfed babies.
Is that an article from the World Health Organization, did you say?
The World Health Organization were the people that ran this study, and you can find this all sorts of different ways. Like, it's just everywhere. You can find it.
Right. I think I've seen that one because it's noted in that book, Milk, Money, and Madness, which everybody should read.
Yes.
And the thing that stuck out to me was that they estimated that 8,000 babies die each year in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Lack of breast milk.
Yeah.
So it's easy to kind of brush off that study and say, oh, those are in poor countries.
Oh,
8,000 of them are here. And I would guess that in a large percentage of those cases, they're preemies, or they're already at risk for some other reason, and really the only thing they needed was breast milk to fix a myriad of problems.
yeah.
And they just didn't get it. And it's ridiculous, because probably on your own block there's 3 women with their freezer full of this stuff. If you absolutely cannot breastfeed yourself, which is rare,
Right.
there's people with freezers full of it just looking for someone to give it to. I'm glad we're making strides in this area. Facebook has fixed that.
Yes. So I opened up a chat button, but I don't know how that's going to record, if it's going to pop up for everybody.
What you want is share screen, I think. I think it's that share screen that you use to do
here we
like
go.
webinar kind of stuff.
Here, got it.
You already have to have open the browser that you want, and then see?
Did I do it?
Yay! Well done.
So this is from The Guardian. So are you seeing it? Are you seeing me scroll it? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, there it is. You could just type it in. You could type in something like death caused by lack of breast milk. That'll bring up all the articles. And we could probably follow this back to the World Health Organization and the actual study. But it's everywhere. It's everywhere. You can find this everywhere. And yeah, why aren't our doctors, our OBs, our pediatricians pressing on us to do what's best?
Well, there are a lot now. There are more than there were, 20 years ago.
But is that just because we've sought them out?
I think it is because we've sought them out. I think it's because there are enough good people out there who are maybe less susceptible to bribery than others. I'd like to refer again to Milk, Money, and Madness for anybody who thinks that I'm just a crazy conspiracy theorist. A big part of it is that pediatricians and OBs, for that matter, a large part of their educations for a long time were funded by formula companies and pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
They give huge donations to medical schools. They give huge donations to hospitals and encourage them to build their labor and delivery and recovery rooms far away from the nursery. The formula companies give breastfeeding success kits to new women in hospitals, which are breastfeeding failure kits.
Right.
Doctors are given huge bonuses and kickbacks for pushing their drugs and formula on patients. And of course, there are a growing number of doctors who said, no, thanks. This isn't why I went into medicine. I'm actually going to help people.
Right.
Dr. Sears, of course, comes to mind, and many others. I know it's a different topic, but not really, because it's hand in hand. The vaccine industry. Anybody who's watched the documentary Vaxxed has seen the part where researchers took huge stacks of research and put it in front of doctors, pediatricians, and said, hey, take as long as you need to go through these studies about vaccines, and we'll come back and talk about it. And their jaws were just dropped to the floor. I have been through medical school. I have been in practice this many number of years, and I can't believe I've never seen these studies. This completely changes the way that I'm going to interact with my patients. And I think it would be the same with breastfeeding. We assume that doctors are keeping up on this stuff. They don't have time.
Right.
You don't have time to sit around and read the latest medical journals. That's La Leche League.
Right. Yeah.
Those ladies have time.
Yeah, it's us stay-at-home moms that have nothing better to do.
Yeah. So
Massive student loans to pay off, Time is money here.
it is money. I think that really, if you were to look your pediatrician in the face and say, is this about money? They probably and genuinely would say, no, of course not. But their education from the very beginning was funded by these companies.
Yes.
And they've been inundated in pharmaceutical culture. But I'm really pleased that there are a growing number of those who are leaving the mainstream. They can't ignore the studies forever. And they do genuinely want to help their patients. They want to help these moms. They want to help these babies. And they see a difference. And Dr. Sears, I believe, was it Dr. Sears who won't even take babies who are not breastfed?
I don't
He
remember.
won't even accept them in his practice. Which doctor was that?
I wonder if it was Mayor Eisenstein.
Or Mendelsohn? I don't remember. Very famous pediatrician, wrote lots of books. And he would not take babies who were not exclusively breastfed.
Right.
And kept really careful statistics on other things too, like the percentage of those who were delivered vaginally versus cesarean or at home, or vaccinated versus not. And those statistics really say a lot, even though his numbers were small enough for, the general mainstream to ignore. For his practice, they were jaw-dropping.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. All right. Number 7 is correct weight loss. Yeah. Can we just skip that one? Such a lie. Okay. I'm one of those people it's a big lie for. So for some people it's true. For some people it's not true. Some moms make super fatty half cream milk. Some moms make milk that looks more like skim milk. Okay. So I'm one of those moms. My body loves to hold on to its fat. And then we have other moms. Usually, here's a stereotypical, I'll make a generalization here. When I see a thin mom with a super fat baby, I know that mom's metabolism is completely awesome. And when she pumps milk, it is literally 50% cream. And then when I see moms that have leaner looking babies and chubbier bodies, those moms, when they pump milk, maybe the little barely less than a finger width is cream.
Right.
And
both are perfect, by the way.
Absolutely. Both are perfect. But let's not say breastfeeding makes you lose weight. That's ridiculous.
It can. It can for some moms.
Half of us.
Yeah.
For half of us. The others of us, we actually sometimes gain weight while nursing because we still get hungry too. Mm-hmm. And our body's just not getting rid of it. It's hoarding it. Sometimes even after we're done breastfeeding our babies, our bodies like to still hoard fat. It's ridiculous.
I'm not going to comment on weight loss. That's definitely not my area of expertise.
No, you're not allowed. Number 8, less work. No need to prepare bottles or solid foods. You do not have to worry about when babies cries. You just put it to your boob. Yeah. Yes. I've done both. I've done both things. I've nursed, bottled, pumped, all the things. And oh my gosh, what a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
I actually went to dinner long time ago with one of my first few babies. Another friend of mine had her first baby around the same time, and so we went out together, and our babies were probably about a month old, and we're in a restaurant. My baby gets hungry. I latch the baby on. In the meantime, she says, "Oh, I'm not sure I'm really comfortable nursing in public yet." So instead, she arranged this whole tent around herself and got a bottle and expressed the milk right into the bottle, which is less steps than some moms take. She didn't get out a pump or anything. Mm-hmm. So she didn't have to worry about hauling around a pump or cleaning the pump later, but she expressed right into the bottle. And the whole time she's talking about how easy it is. This is so much easier when I go out because then I don't have to nurse the baby and worry about, okay, but she already created this huge tent around herself and got out this bottle, which she had to, wash and sterilize later. She pumped into the bottle. As she's talking, my baby has finished nursing. I'm back to eating my meal, right? And she's just getting started. So now she's got to hold the baby. This is a little baby. You can't hold a bottle, by itself. So she's sitting there with this bottle. And she's going on and on about how easy it is. And I was thinking to myself, I guess it's all about attitude and perception. Because I actually viewed it as a positive thing. This was a mom who was probably not going to breastfeed without a little bit of influence from some other great moms and myself. And so that was great that she was still taking her baby out in public and her baby was getting breast milk. That's something. It just, as far as the ease, I was a little confused. My baby was done eating and she was still halfway through filling this bottle, and yeah.
I remember plenty of times with Jacob where I just wouldn't bring enough formula and we would have to go home because like I only brought so much that fit in that container, and like you're hungry now and I wanted to stay and I can't. Whereas you know, nursing, it's like I always have enough. We're good.
Yeah.
Take a pack.
I remember my formula days, and it was kind of a catastrophe if you're poor.
Oh yeah.
Your toddler dumps it down the toilet or something.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Right. Absolutely. And the last section is, when should you wean your baby? And we like to joke that it's in college.
Yeah, definitely by college.
You know, that when they're in kindergarten and going to school, they can invite their friends back home for cookies and milk. And she talks about, did this go into milk teeth or no? Oh, yeah, the very first paragraph. Research reveals that peoples in the world who do not substitute with animal milk of some kind nurse their babies for 3 to 5 years. One of the reference Bibles suggests that Moses was about 5 years old when he was weaned and ready to start his education in the Egyptian court. Samuel was 5 years old when he weaned and taken to the prophet Eli. Isaac was 5 years old when he weaned and they celebrated with a weaning party. Then it kind of tells us about different mammals and how needy they are and how fast they grow, and they kind of make a correlation between that and how often.
You're frozen.
Okay.
I guess you and me, Sherry.
I guess so, right?
Right. So I'll fill in. Yes. I believe in the Hebrew culture at that time during the Old Testament, a baby typically had a weaning party, a celebration around 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They cut their hair for the first time, the boys did, and there was a feast, and everybody celebrated this baby being weaned.
Yeah,
I think in general that was the age.
Yeah, it said Eli and Isaac was 5 years old when he was weaned, and they celebrated with a weaning party.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of interesting. I always thought that was like a current thing, like, because I hear about people having like weaning parties, and I'm like, that just seems like a trick to make your baby happy about wanting to not nurse anymore. So I thought that was interesting that like that was something to be celebrated, and
Right.
like that's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. I've never done anything like that because I wasn't really paying close enough attention. One day I would just kind of look around me and go, oh gosh, I don't think I've nursed for a couple days. And I'm definitely not going to bring it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's typically around a year and a half to 2 years for me. There's usually another baby on the way, and then it hurts and I'm done.
Yeah, that's what happened with Journey, but it was more like 3. I was pregnant and I was like, oh, this is not okay. And I think people don't realize that like toddlers don't nurse that much.
No.
So it's really not that big of a deal. It's normally like when they wake up in the morning, when they're hurt,
Yeah.
nap time, bedtime for the most part. Like, and even those sessions maybe last 5 minutes or so. It's not like the nurse-a-thons that babies are. So it's a little bit different. And it's kind of good because they're so freaking busy running around your house destroying it that you actually get a minute to, sit down and love them again. Like, oh, you are so sweet and cute. I forgot while you were tearing down all the blocks. Yeah. Oh no. Now everyone's frozen. Uh-oh. Oh. Hey. Shh. Milk. Yeah, milk. Yeah. Okay.